What is up, y'all? You are here with the Texas-Kansas postgame show. Texas, a dominant effort over the Jayhawks. I'm Kevin Dunn, alongside my man, Isaiah Collier. Zay, I've been waiting to do a show with you. You know how much we always have fun talking ball. So we appreciate you being here and obviously part of the fam.
Likewise, my friend. And yeah, I'm glad to do it after a big time win like that going into a very important week next week. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And you're my guy. I love talking ball with you. And yeah, I'm glad it's after a victory. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, really, especially after the first half. I mean, Texas led 13-7 after the first half, and it just felt like one of those games that Texas has been in before where they really dominated the game. I mean, Kansas had 4 possessions in the first half inside Texas territory. Texas had, I believe, 23, yet missed a field goal, had to settle for 2 field goals, and Zay at the half, it felt like another one of those where a lot like the Alabama game. Texas has dominated a lot of this game, but there's not much separation.
Yeah, and you didn't see any panic. In recent
No.
years, there have been a lot of panic and just you lose those games for former Texas teams in the last decade and some change. And this team, they just have a different mentality, KD. Like they know what's at stake, they know where they're ranked, they know that the Big 12 is wide open for them to win on their way out to the SEC. And you see that mentality from week in and week out, even if they're not clicking from the start. Steve Sarkisian, what we haven't seen these last 2 years, they figure it out in the second half and they just wear teams down. And you could see Kansas, those dudes were exhausted. And Sark, Jonathan Brooks, hell of a game. They just kept pounding the ball, and that's why we saw 40 points on that ass.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think you're exactly right. I mean, it's still 95 outside, and we know the Kansas rush defense had been pretty good, but really the question was how are they going to be tested against probably the best offensive line and best run game that they faced? And they faced a couple different rushers. We'll get to Quinn Ewers here in a second. I didn't realize my boy had that type of speed, but they wore out. We saw USC do that too, to where they ended up wearing out a little bit too. And let me get off here because I'm on ESPN.com and it's playing an ad. But we saw USC's defense wear out. And when you don't have depth like Texas has shown on both sides, you get in that third and fourth quarter and it changes. But Zay, you bring up an even bigger point too, because one of the criticisms of Sark and especially at Texas was second half. They seemed to stall, but this was a great example. They went back there and made some adjustments and came out and really took it to them.
Yeah, they did. And now it's going to be the question of can Texas face an actual starting quarterback and get the job done? I mean,
Right.
you talk about some good luck for the Texas side. I mean, you got multiple quarterbacks that you faced this year. It's been the backups. Like you've been preparing all week for Jalen Daniels, and this dude has back spasms. So Jason Bean, bless his heart, he comes in and tries to do the best that he can. But besides that 58-yard pass, they basically locked him up. Jalen Catalon rocked his world, and if Daniel Highshaw wasn't there to scoop it up, then this score would be a little different. But yeah, I going into next week, we'll see how Dylan Gabriel and those Sooners look tonight against Iowa State. I don't really expect them to have much problems there, but Dylan Gabriel might be the first real quarterback you faced all year. When you're facing a lot of these duds, I guess you could count Jalen Milroe as the starter, even though they had their problems with Alabama. But yeah, like all you could do is handle what's in front of you, KD, and this team is doing that. And I think, like I said before, they know what's at stake, so they're not leaving anything to chance. They're going out there and handling their business. And besides Bert Auburn, I'm not really worried about this team at all right now.
Yeah, I mean, JT Sanders, that's my biggest worry, and it was the rest of the game, which says a lot about how they're playing. I just know what all the stuff he does and the problems that he presents to a defense and defensive coordinator. So we'll find out about the ankle. I didn't like him screaming. Bert Auburn is certainly a question mark. It's weird because Kansas rushed for 124 yards, but they averaged 5 a pop. And early in the first half, even though I mentioned they had not gotten very far, they popped a couple on the outside. So for a Texas defense, it feels like, especially on the ground, they haven't given up anything. maybe there's something there that Oklahoma looks at and can play on, but we're obviously just nitpicking right now because I think your point is well taken, and they've gotten some lucky breaks with quarterbacks not being there, but like they got last year against OU. But I'm not sure that it would have been that big of a difference because we saw there may have been a little bit of a difference, but we've seen the Texas lines of scrimmage for the most part really show up. So they did average 5 a pop. Did that bother you at all, or were you at all in the first half when they popped some of those outside runs?
A little bit, but they cleaned it up. Pete Kwiatkowski, he kind of figured out what Kansas and Andy Kolenicki, their offensive coordinator, was trying to do to them. They were getting them on that triple option, that old school type of game, and I know that you missed a lot. And hey, it was working. That's some old school type of ball right there.
It really was, man.
Yo, you don't see that very often. I think it caught this Texas offense, or excuse me, Texas defense by surprise a little bit, especially doing it with Jason Beam, like Jaron Thompson on that touchdown where Highshaw got the fumble when Catalan lit him up. Jaron Thompson gambled. Like, he gambled thinking that he was going to intercept the pitch instead of just making the tackle, and hopefully somebody could come in, and if Bean would have pitched that ball, then they would have been there. But yeah, once they got that all figured out, you saw how difficult it was for the Jayhawks to start moving the ball, and they had to throw it because they had to play from behind, and not too many completions out there. You know, losing Ryan Watts, you talk about losing JT Sanders, that hurts. If Ryan Watts is out for next week, well, that's something too. As good as this secondary has been, Ryan Watts, he's the main guy for Pete Kwiatkowski and this defense for a corner standpoint. So I don't know how much that will affect this team down the road. Hopefully you get both of those guys back sooner than later, but just the adjustments being made, man, I cannot just – I got to focus on it. That's such a big deal because last year it was such a problem. Like, they were putting up 30 points in the first half at times, KD, and then in the second half you would see 3, maybe 6, and then the defense would give up a ton. And it's like, are you adjusting to their adjustments? It's been just night and day this year from last year, and that's very exciting because that's what you got to do to win championships around here.
Yeah, no, hey, I'm with you, man. I will take we give up some stuff early and you make the adjustment, and it's not happening in the third and fourth quarter. That shows that they're obviously moving in the right direction. And defensively, once again, when Kansas, now Anthony Hill gets the roughing the passer at the very end. Otherwise, they probably pumped there out of their own end zone. They were already waving the white flag. And, at that point, you just try and put a drive together. But when they got down to the Texas 35, that was as deep as they'd gotten all game. Yeah. So even when they are hitting some stuff early on, and you're exactly right with being there to backup quarterback, but tell you what, that kid can fly. Like, he may be straight line faster than Jaylen Daniels. Now, he doesn't present those problems and I don't think has that football wiggle right now. But when I saw him fly on a couple of those, including the touchdown where he got hit and fumbled, I thought, man, this could really be a problem. But the Texas defense just made sure that wasn't the case. And you got to give Texas credit on the flip side of that. We can go ahead and, if you want now, I mean, we've got a couple of these to give away, but I'm thinking that, offensive player of the game, if let me see if I can get that up. Here we go. Offensive MVP, I should say, is brought to you by Verde's Mexican Parrilla. I have not been there yet. I've heard so many good things about this place from a ton of people, including people at work. So I'm going next week. But it's off Hamilton Pool Road, off 71. It's in Spicewood, beautiful area, great Tex-Mex. So thank them for sponsoring the offensive MVP. We could go Quinn Ewers, who looked good. We could go Adonai Mitchell, but we got to go Jay Brooks, I'm thinking, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He should have had 200 last week.
I was thinking the exact same thing, and he should have. And, he's taken it to a different level. You can tell also just how confident he is right now. He ends up with 20 carries for 217, an 11 clip, and 2 touchdowns, including a long of 67. And all of a sudden, when you've got that going, we know the offensive line's there, but they know they're running back, and they've got guys obviously behind that. We saw that with Baxter and Blue that can come in and really support him. But it feels like he knows this is his job, Zay, and you know this. I mean, heck, you played at a high level. you know that when you're playing well and you get some confidence, that all of a sudden you feel comfortable at your spot, you can do some different things. And it feels like he's doing that.
Yeah, and he probably felt slighted when Sark named CJ Baxter the starter in the Rice game. You know, when you're out here waiting for Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson to go to the league, and you're waiting your turn, and they bring in the bright, shiny new toy and CJ Baxter, the 5-star coming out of Florida, and he gets the job. You could use that as motivation. Yes, you want everybody to eat your teammates. Absolutely. You want him to do well, but these guys are still competitors. Like, iron sharpens iron. So seeing that early, I think Jonathan Brooks looked at that and said, yo, man, when I get my opportunity, I'm going to show them that I should be the guy. I should be the guy going out with the first team every game. And he solidified that. Like, he is RB1. CJ Baxter is coming along strong. I thought he had a solid game today. But I think that Jonathan Brooks sitting behind Bijan Robinson all these years and watching somebody that dynamic, just that elusive and that good. And also with Roshan Johnson, the way that he carries himself as a leader, how hard he ran. Like, those are good models to idolize and try to, like, you know, mock your game after. Now, they're different backs, but you could take bits and pieces of those guys and you can learn and apply it to your game. And I think 24, he's done that at a superb high. Like, that dude, he looks good right now. And you're right, KD, he is confident. Like, he knows he's the man. And just the breakaway speed that a lot of people didn't think he had. That 58-yard touchdown, ain't nobody touching him on that one. He had that, what was it, 80-something yards one in the first half? I don't know if it was that long, but the dude is finding those holes. He's making those one cuts, and he's getting north. Like, there's not a lot of shaking and juking and going east and west. No, man, it's all about going north. He's going to make you miss tackles, and he's a man on a mission right now. And shout out to this offensive line. We thought that Cole Hudson going out, yeah, that would hurt, but at the end of the day, DJ Campbell, he had that one penalty. He's been solid. So this offensive line, you got to salute them because they played a huge role in Jonathan Brooks having 218 yards. And if the Horns could have that balanced attack that we saw today, their first time putting up 40 points all year, then ain't nobody in the Big 12 is going to be able to touch them, man.
Yeah, DJ got the hold. There are so many flagrant holds that I see all over every Saturday. If I see one more guy on a 3rd and 14 because it's a blowout, still get grabbed like this because he broke through the line of scrimmage, call a damn hold. It's holding. Call it. Yeah. And they don't. That one was, I see what they were calling, and he was holding him back. I don't know if he was actually holding him, but I see what they were calling. But call the flagrant ones. I'm going to go old man here and just say, like, call those. But yeah, the run game has been, it just continues to kind of take that next level. And one thing with Brooks, we know he has a breakaway speed. We know he can go 22 miles per hour. The athleticism is there. But I think part of him getting more comfortable and just getting more reps and getting more real reps like this is the vision and the patience, where he does get north-south, but he's letting stuff really set up and he's seeing stuff. His vision and patience really, really has me excited that everything that everyone was talking about with this guy and that we'd seen in real small time, I get now. And then also on the run game, anyone who has listened to me knows that, my 3 favorite college quarterbacks are Vince Young, Charlie Ward, and Tommy Frazier. What do they all have in common? Now they're all can beat you with your feet, right? Yeah. Right now, 2 of them could really throw too, but it's 11 on 11. It's an easy math game for me. And yeah, we've seen 10 on 11 win at the pro level with Tom Brady and at the college level. But with Quinn Ewers now being able to really show that, shed those pounds, and that's 2 weeks in a row now, Zay, where he's parked one where I think most of us, and including the defense, the most important people, the guys on defense thought, whoa, I didn't see that coming. That adds a different element. I know he's not VY, he's not Colt, and I know that's not going to be a big part of the offense, but if stuff's covered and he can get first downs like he did later in the game or park one like he did to start the game, that really changes stuff. If you're the defensive coordinator trying to think, oh man, we were having tough enough time getting 11 on 10 and making this work. Now it could be 11 on 11.
Yeah. And what defensive coordinator goes into the game plan like, we got to stop Quinn Ewers' legs?
Oh,
Like,
you're
that's the last
punishing
thing.
him. Yeah, right.
That's the last thing that I'm worried about. So now that's on tape. Like, that has to terrify you. And yeah, of course, JT Sanders not being there, that's going to hurt you. But I have full confidence in Gunnar Helm to get the job done for however long JT Sanders is out. But you're right, KD. Like, Quinn Ewers utilizing his legs the last 2 weeks and just having that confidence to take off and run when things break down, that's huge for this offense, and just to keep moving the chains, because that's one of the most deflating moments for a defense, especially when it's a white boy like Quinn Ewers, who you ain't expecting to run like that. Like, that's so deflating. And when he got that 30-yard run, it's like, oh man, it's about to be just open season on their ass all game long. And they couldn't stop him. Like, the Jayhawks were huffing and puffing. They arguing with each other after that Adonai Mitchell touchdown. They arguing with each other, holding each other in the pads and stuff, shaking and stuff like that. Like, they were so just disgruntled and discombobulated, and you got to love it. Like, you got to love it. We haven't seen the home field advantage work to Texas' favor all season long. From Wyoming to Rice, both of those games, even though they took care of business in the second half, we just haven't seen it like we should. Today, we saw it. You mentioned that how hot it was earlier in the show. Like, it showed for Kansas. It really showed. And Texas, with the way that they rotate guys, especially on the defensive side, they were able to stay fresh. And Adonai Mitchell, man, this was, I know against Alabama, he had a huge game, 2 touchdowns, those deep shots. But, man, every pass that went his way was a catch. And he was making guys miss. 141 yards, 10 receptions, that touchdown. Like, he was going to work, and Xavier Word, he did his thing too. So what do you focus on if you're a defensive coordinator preparing for Texas each week? Because now Jonathan Brooks is getting going. Like, what do you take away? And this balanced attack, this is what I've been looking for Steve Sarkisian, because it just hasn't been as balanced as you wanted. Even with Bijan Robinson, it wasn't. It seemed like he threw way too many times. You go back to Oklahoma State, Quinn Ewers going 19 for 49 with the horrible temperature and the messed up hand and shit, and just all this other stuff that shouldn't even be an issue, to where Sark, hey, that number 5, he's going to be a first-round pick in an era where you don't take running backs in the first round. Maybe you should give him the ball. Now Sark's doing things that make sense, and it's what the defense gives you. So if the defense is going to give you all of this, then take it. And I think he has confidence in all these guys to make plays, and it's very refreshing as a Texas fan and somebody that gets to cover him.
No, it is. And by the way, he was a top 10 pick in an era where you don't take him in the first round.
Yeah.
Like, he was that. And people aren't bitching about it now. They're like, that never happens. Usually 2 games in, what were you doing? Some people are. Hey, it's even more deflating when it's a white boy who had a gut and a mullet a year ago. Like that. As someone who's been beaten by those guys, it burns it a little bit more. Say, all right.
Yeah, it does, man. Oh, that makes you want to stop eating Chick-fil-A too, man. If I can move like Quinn Ewers, that dude's out there just swifting around and confident and looks good. Just his moxie, KD, like it's just night and day what we see with Quinn Ewers from last year. Last year, he had that deer in the headlights look a lot, just kind of, man, this might be too big of a moment. Now he's thriving in the moment. He's embracing it. He's hyping the crowd up. He's just so locked in and so confident in this game, and that leadership, it's rubbing off on the rest of the squad. And that's why I think you're seeing these dubs just come so easy in a way, because their quarterback is as confident as he's ever been.
Yeah, it felt like last year was deer in the headlights, or almost like an apathetic look that you just wondered what's going on here. And it may be a similar look this year, but there's definitely poise. There's confidence. It doesn't seem too fast to him. It seems like he's prepared. He's ready. He doesn't flip out. And I think that's been one of the big things about when the offense doesn't get started the way that they want it to, that he's obviously very calm. And at the end of the day, that's your point guard, man. That's the guy you look at to make sure that, you kind of usually will feed off their energy. And I think they have a lot of those guys. So he's been, outside of the pick, I thought he played really well. And look, he now goes down as the second longest streak of pass attempts at UT without a pick. So behind Sam Ellinger. So pretty impressive. He's obviously made strides. They're going to need him next week. And he played, you could say, the best game of his career against Oklahoma. And he's made a lot of strides since then, say. So I think they're going to be really confident, and they should be going up there. But I think the key to playing Texas right now is, as crazy as it sounds, because you should think, all right, take away, well, JT Sanders may be taken away, but take away the deep threats and take away Mitchell and take away Worthy. But I think you got to stop the run. I think they're that two-dimensional. And if they're two-dimensional, you're not stopping Xavier Worthy when he's running 18-yard comebacks, deep comebacks. You know, any cornerback in their right mind, there's not a cornerback in college football that at that point, after 10 yards, doesn't flip the hips, bail, and run, because you have to, because it may be an option route too. So if you sit on that, his ass, it's going to be a 60-yarder and done. So these guys got to bail on that stuff. There's a lot of underneath crossing stuff they're doing with Adonai Mitchell. I almost felt like Sark, and I don't know, but almost felt like with the 3 catches to start the game off with, that you know, Adonai is one of those guys you want to get going and get him going early. And I'll give him credit, when that hadn't happened, he still makes big catches like Alabama. But let's get him going, get him in there right away. And they did that. And heck, like you said, he finishes with 10 catches. Most other games that I've ever done post game with, Adonai Mitchell is your player of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's crazy. Like them being two-dimensional, them being this versatile, that's scary for the rest of the nation. And if Quinn Ewers, if he just takes what the defense gives him, if he doesn't look at Xavier Worthy and just have eyes on him the whole time, then there's going to be a lot more open. And I think that's the maturity that you're seeing with Quinn from year 1 to year 2. Year 1, Xavier Worthy, he's my roommate. He's the only one I trust. And you're next receiver might have been Casey Kane. I haven't seen Casey Kane in a hot minute. I hope he's doing well and stuff, but Casey Kane was kind of like that next dude, and it kind of just shows how deep they are now. I know Jordan Whittington's out there, but Adonai Mitchell, what he brings to the table, especially with Xavier Worthy and all the attention that he gets, like, you're right. You have to watch number 1 because that dude's so damn fast. You don't want to get toasted. And you don't want to get embarrassed. So you'll give up the underneath stuff and try to make that tackle because that's all you can do with the speed that's on the field. So if Quinn has the patience, if Sark has the patience to say, hey, they're giving us this, then fine. We're going to just move the ball methodically up the field. And hey, we're just going to beat them to death. We're going to keep them, that defense on this field. They're going to get tired. They can't stop the run. The run's going to open up the pass. And yeah, they're just clicking, man. They're absolutely clicking. So now they're actually dealing with some real adversity. Like JT Sanders, that's a big deal. Like that dude is a freak. Yeah, that dude's an absolute freak. I love Gunnar Helm. Like, Gunnar Helm, here you go. This is what you wanted. I've been hearing in the offseason and stuff about Gunnar Helm coming up to Jeff Banks, and the coach was like, yo, I get it. I'm good at blocking, and I get it. Number 0 is going to be a first-round pick. I understand, but I'm pretty good too. So let me get some love. Throw me some passes, throw a bone my way, show me some love, coaches. Well, Gunnar Helm, you got your wish, bro, because I don't know. That injury looked bad. You were talking about how JT Sanders was screaming. I don't want to hear that at all. Hopefully it's not a high ankle sprain. And, you know.
You and I know that, man. That'll take you out for – you know, I had 2 severe ones, and the doctor told me both times, you're better off if you break it. First off, don't fucking tell me that. Like, I'm not a D1 athlete. You know what I mean? Like, just tell me I got a high ankle sprain. But, like, they are tough. Now, he's at that age, and he's that type of athlete. So, and he's with the UT medical staff. So, they'll get it rehabbed as quickly as possible. But let's hope it's not a high ankle sprain. Let's hope it's a lower one, and at that age you can recover quickly. But it's interesting what you say about Gunnar. I hadn't heard that. I mean, I know he's talented, but that's good that, you know, he's already thinking, I want some balls. So you're right, this is up to him. And I think Juan Davis is the backup. So, you know, this is also where Sark can play around, and if JT's not in the lineup next week, they're going to scratch out the tight end probably and say, all right, we don't have to worry about covering that as much. And, you know, you can draw up stuff to the tight end. So, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about next week and everything. I do want to give a shout out to Clean Cause, because we're going to check the YouTube comment line here in a second. And Clean Cause does a lot of good stuff. I have, BK talks about this stuff like it's the best thing out there, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback. They have 8 delicious flavors of the organic sparkling types, and it's 0 calories. Here's a great best thing: 50% of the net profits support addiction recovery. To date, they've given over 2 million, which is just awesome. So cleancause.com, they got a great product, and they also do great things for some people that are struggling out there. What else stood out to you just about the game or moving forward? Was there anything that, because it was one of those tight games again where it felt like there was anxiety, and then it also felt like just like that, it was over with.
I'm terrified about Bert Auburn right now.
I know. I'm with you, man.
I think he has the yips at this point. Like, I think he's flat out in his head. It's mental. It's become mental, and that's the scariest thing that you want from a kicker, when it becomes mental. And like the kicks that you break in practice, you're going like 98% and you hitting 60-yarders. But when those lights shine and you hear those fans in the stands and there's guys trying to block the kick and stuff, and you've missed a few already. I was concerned against Alabama, but I was like, okay, he missed one against Bama. It was, I want to say, like a 42, 45-yard-ish kick. It's against Bama. I understand that. When he smoked the one 26-yarder last week in Waco, KD, I was like, okay, this is kind of a problem. And me and Chip, we talk about it, and Chip's like, yeah, well, they're 4-0, so let's wait. And I'm like, Chip, yo, I just have a bad feeling, just the way Bert Auburn looks. Chip says he's rushing it. I don't know. Like, I have no idea. But you missed 2 this week.
Something's not working.
Yeah, something's not working. Something is off. And there's going to be games where it's a lot tighter than 40-14 today, especially next week. Next week, anything could happen. It don't matter how good these teams are. Anything could happen in that game at the Cotton Bowl and the Red River Shootout. So if it comes down to Bert Auburn having to make a kick, I have 0 confidence in them. Zero. You're 5-0 right now. It's not even nitpicking at this point. That is a legitimate problem. And if it's the yips, like, I don't know where Steve Sarkisian could go. Like, you might have to get desperate and start going for it on 4th down, where, people are going to look at Sark and be like, dog, why aren't you taking the points? I don't trust my kicker right now. So I'm going to have to go for it. And you never want to be in those situations. You want your kicker to be locked in and ready to go every game. And it's going to be 3 once he gets out there and uses that foot. But right now, you can't trust what sober Carrot Top's bringing to the table, man. He's a liability. Is he acting like normal Carrot Top, man, with the porn addiction and the cocaine and stuff? Like, maybe he needs to cut the hair like Quinn Ewers. I don't know. But something ain't right. And he's getting NIL deals, Kevin. He's a kicker. What the hell is he getting NIL deals for? Who are we? He's a kicker. That's what I'm saying. Stuff's getting too big for his head. Like, no kicker. Get your money. You deserve it. Get your money. If it's out there, Bert Auburn, get yours. I ain't knocking that. But you got to make the kicks, though. And if you're not, that's your only job, my friend.
Hey, when you're doing stand-up and you're a prop-based stand-up comedian like Carrot Top is, you've got to get your big, earphones or your Snickers that you have fun with. People, you're a prop-based comic, so you need the NIL money. I'm 100% with you, and it's so strange because you and I are both Austinites. We've been watching these, Texas forever. Like a lot of people watching right now and listening, we appreciate that. Texas, in their 5 and 6 years, we're in the Southwest Conference. I'm not sure we beat Odessa Permian this year. Like those types of teams, we always had a kicker. I mean, boy, what I would do to take Wayne Clements off one of those 5-win teams and fucking get his 1991 ass in here right now. You know what I mean? We have Ryan Bailey out of Anderson, who was, I think, hanging out on campus, was at the Greg hitting on chicks. And they're like, hey, dude, we heard you got a strong leg. And he's hitting 45-yarders for us in Lincoln, right down the middle. I mean, Jeff Ward, we can go from Raul Alegre, heck, we can go from Werks on. but we've had kickers our whole lifetime. When we've been dog shit, a 3-win team, we got a kicker. John McAvick, 4-win team in 97. Phil Dawson. We always have a kicker, and now it feels like everything else is set up, and that's the one thing that us Texas fans are worried about, and understandably so. Would you look somewhere else right now or no?
No, everything looks good. I want to see that this is the first time.
Oh, no. I meant look somewhere else for a kicker. I don't
Oh,
know. You probably follow it more in terms of if there's someone else on the roster they feel like can do that, or you always get to that point where I don't know if they're there yet, where you start looking for soccer kids and you do tryouts.
I don't know. I hope somebody asked Sark today in the presser. I told Chip, Chip, you might want to ask that question on the Thursday Zoom about Bert Auburn if he's all right. Like somebody's going to ask him at this point. You got to you got 3 more pressers with Sark. You got after the game today. That's going to be online, whatever. You got Monday, then you got Thursday. Somebody's going to have to ask him about Bert Auburn because this is getting ridiculous. Yeah. I don't know what they have. They have any backups or anybody they're comfortable with, but yeah, man, like from last year, what we saw with him, he was solid. You thought you had confidence in the guy coming into 2023, but oh man, like if it's mental, that's scary. That's very scary.
Yeah, you hope it's mechanical. The one thing about that though that's always strange is that it's one of the few positions where you really have no one on staff who knows what the fuck they're talking about, right? I mean, even if Jeff Banks is a good special teams coach, or he has been, but I'm not sure that he's not Chris Saylor. It's almost like they all have their own personal coach, and you may got to fly that guy in if it is something mechanical, if he is rushing stuff. But yeah, I mean, at this point, obviously, you just try and reset his confidence, and that'll be something that Texas fans are obviously looking at. So hey, we gave the offensive MVP. That was from Verde's Mexican Parrilla, and that was clearly ends up having to be Jonathan Brooks. What about the offensive play of the game? Because we could do a couple different deals here. I'm gonna give this one to you. What are you thinking?
I would say Jonathan Brooks 58-yard run.
Okay.
Second half. I would say that. Yeah, I would say that kind of. Yeah, that definitely blew things open and kind of took the life out of the Jayhawks to where they were just like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to stop these guys, man. Like that was a big time play, and Jonathan Brooks having that breakout speed and just showing that he's the man now. Again, 218 yards. That is huffing it up the field. Like that dude was a man on a mission. And I've been saying it all season long, like Sark, coming out and throwing 3 times and going 3 and out and stuff against teams of the likes of Rice and Wyoming. That ain't it, bro. That ain't it. If teams are going to drop 8 and only rush 3, make them pay. You saw it a lot last year. Quinn Ewers just having difficulty with those 3-5-5 schemes and stuff like that. Like they're just struggling, just really struggling out there because they're just dropping so many guys. They want to take away that deep shot and not trusting your run game. Last year, yes, this offensive line was a lot younger. This year, those guys, they're ready to go. Christian Jones talking about this offensive line winning the award for best offensive line in the nation. Well, you got to have some pretty good run stats from your running back to do that. So, yeah, I think they turned a huge page this week in their run game. And you talked about just being two-dimensional. The versatility of this offense makes them scary as I don't know what. And they're getting better from week to week. And you got to love that, KD.
No, you do, and you're right. I mean, it's really about the offensive line because I think when you saw the 3-3-5 or the flyover last year, that the offensive line was better, but they still really couldn't create the type of holes they're doing right now. And now teams know they're going to run, and they're still able to enforce their will. So it's been fun to see. And who would have thought that the Texas offensive line maybe winning the Joe Moore Award or winning that award as the top offensive line in the country, but they may be that team as we sit here after the end of week 4 or 5, whatever it is. So the offensive play of the game is brought to you by Hat Creek Burger Company. Hat Creek, man, they're celebrating their 15th birthday this month. It's become really an Austin staple. They got places all over the place. They got 26 locations across Texas: Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Temple, Waco. If you're looking for a burger, they got a good one, and also a good spot for the kids to go play. So it's a great spot for parents to drink and eat and act like they're parenting, Zay.
Living good, man. That's living good.
No doubt about it. All right, so we've given the offensive and defensive, or sort of the offensive play of the game and MVP. What about defensive MVP? Because I'm looking at Jalen. That'd be my guy. Is there anyone else you go with on that or no?
You talking about Jaylen Ford?
Yeah, Jaylen Ford. I think he led him in with 7 total tackles. He had 1 tackle for loss. I mean, there's probably a couple different directions you could go on this, but I would probably go Ford.
Yeah, I would say Jalen Catalon. This might have been his best game.
I like that. Only 3 tackles, but man, did he come up and they were that was what we thought of, and really he's been like that all year. But that was Jalen Catalon at Arkansas.
Yeah, they were 3 big-time tackles, and his coverage was good too. Like, again, if we were in the right place at the right time, then that should have been a fumble recovery because he just rocked Jason Bean's world. And he had a couple of other tackles where he was just flying in like a missile, making direct shots. And yeah, that dude, I think just on the limited snaps that he's playing is huge for him, because you worry about, with his history of being injured a lot, how would that work, him playing a full season and being healthy? Well, Steve Sarkisian said in one of his pressers this past week, he's very confident in playing 5 guys at safety: Derek Williams, Michael Taft, Jaron Thompson, Keaton Crawford, even though he got absolutely toasted by Wilson on that long 50-something yard pass to make it 20-14, but he's been solid. And then Jalen Catalon, like, you have a lot of confidence in all 5 of those guys to come in and be productive. Like Michael Taft, he had a big hit, the Westlake alum, on Jason Bean in the backfield, or one of the running backs, I don't know. But yeah, this secondary, including the safeties, they've been locked in and they've been solid. A couple of missed opportunities here or there, but Pete Kwiatkowski, they get them fixed, and it doesn't stay consistent. They get those mistakes fixed, and 14 points, man, going 5-0. You got to love how PK has just made all the right decisions, and this defense playing as one.
Yeah, no, I like that call because Ford was all over the place, and I knew linebackers were going to be important with a lot of the eye candy they throw at you, and he played really well. But yeah, I mean, there's not much separation in terms of total numbers, and just the eyeball would tell you Catalon the way he played. Man, that guy gets downhill, and he gets downhill quickly. He was a great addition. I loved the addition. My only question was, will the shoulder hold up? And look, for some of the guys that have been injury prone, knock on wood, they haven't gotten injured yet. Heading into OU, we'll see where Sanders is. We'll see where Watts is. I doubt Hudson will be back, but I think they've been okay with DJ Campbell there. But really, really good to see Catalon playing the way he is, and really the secondary in general. You mentioned the one long bomb the Texans gave up. They're in zone coverage, and Jahdae Barron was not covering him. He's in zone, but it's almost like he could have redirected him a little bit or slowed him down. I think he was within the 5 yards. He's a defender in 2023, so he may have just, barely breathed on him and looked at him, and he would have been taken down to APD. But usually you want to try and redirect that a little bit, because, man, when a guy has a full sprint to a flat-footed safety, I mean, Keaton got burned, but that's at some point I look at the DC, I'm like, man, that's on you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was a good play by Lance Leipold and that crew. I mean, they saw what Texas was doing in the first half, and they knew that, okay, these guys, they're going to try to stop that option type stuff that we were running that they were kind of productive on in the first half, and Texas kind of got bit on it. But just the adjustments after that, you didn't see any of those mistakes. And shout out to Gavin Holmes, Malik Muhammad, Terrence Brooks, like those guys. When Ryan Watts goes out the game, they were solid. Those receivers for Kansas, they've been lighting everybody else up Like against Illinois and against BYU, they did a hell of a job. Skinner and Leonard and Grimm, those guys are some of the most underrated receivers in the Big 12. And to have the game that they had, hey, that's impressive for Texas to take that away. Now, I know people are saying, but Jalen Daniels didn't play. It would have been different. Yeah, possibly. But Jason Bean might be the best backup quarterback in the Big 12. Like, if you go look at Kansas and, just kind of scout what they do, Jason Bean's in a lot of scouting reports on how good he is and just how experienced he is coming from North Texas, playing 3 years there. And then last year when Jalen Daniels went out, he kind of held his own at times too. So Jason Bean, it's not like he's a scrub or anything, but you haven't seen just that big time quarterback face this defense yet. And the first test might be Dylan Gabriel next week.
Jalen Catalan, our defensive MVP of the game. That's brought to you by Kenfield Golf Cars. If you're in the market for a new or pre-owned golf cart, this is the spot to go. It's Kenfield Golf Cars. They've been around since 1979. They've been doing it old school for a long time. You can get to KenfieldGolfCars.com, or you can give them a call at 512-258-8518. We appreciate all of our sponsors. Y'all have made this fun. You see them up there, audio, visual, clean calls we talked about earlier, Covert Bee Cave, Salt Traders, great people on the bottom too. Don't want to leave y'all out, but we appreciate everyone who's been a big part of this. Check out any other national games. You check out USC and Colorado at all?
Yeah, I did. Caleb Williams. It looks like he's about to go Archie Griffin again because he cannot stop. Like that dude. I hope Quinn Ewers just gets to New York at this point, but I kind of just counted him out. If the Horns keep winning, then Quinn Ewers should get there. But as far as winning that thing, it looks like Caleb Williams, it's his to lose, man. Just how he moves around in the pocket, how he keeps his head up and just makes any type of throw off any platform. Like, that dude's impressive. And I could get why there's teams in the NFL thinking about tanking for him. Like, that dude is that good. Yeah. But shout out to Colorado for coming back a little bit and making it a game. They fought.
I mean, Colorado they're such a weird team because they're not a top. I'm not sure they're a top 60 offensive line. Like, their offensive line is so bad. What Shedeur Sanders is able to do impresses me every week, probably outside of Oregon, although I didn't hold that against them. But I think it says a lot about Colorado coming back. I mean, they're a 3-2 team that could easily be 2-3, and they're missing one of their best players, if not their best player, who plays both ways. And they just continue to fight. But also USC, as we're looking at the top 10 landscape, they just have not figured out that defense, have they, Zay?
No, they haven't. Alex Grinch, man, he struggled for a while under Lincoln Riley, and I know that's his guy, but man, and you got, that's not like the defense. They don't play hard for them. It's just they're out of position a lot, and they give up a ton of points. Yeah, they're not the best tacklers and stuff. Like, you heard one of those defensive players in the post game talk about, it's us. It's not Alex Grinch. Everybody wants to blame him and stuff. I think a little bit's on Alex Grinch, but I appreciate you, young fella, for trying to protect your coach. Yeah, that's some serious team camaraderie there. Right. But yeah, like, I don't know if they go to the Pac-12 tournament and play a team like Washington. I don't know if they're on the schedule. I don't think so. But if they go to the championship game and have Washington there with Michael Penix and the way those receivers look right now, that could be ugly for them, because that's a team that just could score on anybody. So yeah, Colorado, they fought back, and Caleb Williams, it took him 6 touchdowns for them to get that dub. But there's going to be times where Caleb Williams might struggle a little bit, and if that defense struggles too, then I could easily see the Trojans getting got.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure anyone goes undefeated in the Pac-12. I mean, Colorado will probably finish with a losing record, and it's still, heck, they've already tripled what they did last year, so it's already, and just the pub they've gotten alone, that thing's moving in the right direction. You got Oregon leading Stanford right now, 7-6. That's, with 8 minutes to go. LSU and Ole Miss are in a shootout at the half. What we saw today and what we're seeing real time right now is this is just a wide open college football season. A&M did beat Arkansas 34-22. I don't know if you saw, Michigan ends up blowing out a really bad Penn State, or I'm sorry, Nebraska team, I mean, maybe you're looking at Michigan and Texas as your two most impressive teams that have really been week in and week out. Texas would have more impressive wins, though. Maybe you throw Penn State and Washington in there. There are a couple different teams you can throw in there, but man, this just feels wide open. It not only feels wide open with the scores, it feels wide open with our eyes. And we've watched long enough to know when you see a Georgia from last year or someone who just really separates from the pack. I don't see that much separation right now.
Yeah, and what Texas doesn't necessarily have to deal with, like those teams in the Pac-12 or in the SEC slash Big Ten, like Michigan's going to have to play Ohio State and Penn State. So,
yeah, I know.
Just, you know,
we'll find out with them, right?
Yeah, we'll find out with them. While Texas, after Oklahoma, if they could get by them, then it's just sunshine the rest of the way. That's all it is. That's why I don't think if any team loses in the Big 12, I can't see the committee putting them in the CFP. I just can't. It's too weak right now, and there's just too many good teams in the Pac-12 and the Big 10 and the SEC. Maybe not as much as previous season, the SEC, but I could see them choosing a couple of SEC teams over the Big 12 team that wins it all if they have multiple losses. So Texas, they can't afford to mess up or just, take anybody lightly. And I just think the leadership on this squad, I can't talk about that enough, KD. Like the Johnny Barons of the world, they just have so much swagger and confidence. The way they talk, like they're just so locked in. And I know I say that word a lot, but it's true. Like Steve Sarkisian, he talked about before the season, this team just talking the way he talks, the philosophy's getting there. Everybody is buying into what the culture is supposed to be here in year 3. And we saw that today in the 40-14 matchup. So now when you have adversity, when some of your best players on both sides might not be available for probably the biggest game of the year, can you still get dubs? Can you still bring in those second string guys with how deep you are and have confidence to not change the playbook that much? You're going to have to tweak it a little bit because JT Sanders is just a ridiculous, specimen of an athlete. But can you make those adjustments now when there's adversity on the table with guys being out that you've relied on for so long? And if we see that, then I think that shows how good this Texas team really is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fired up. They dominated today. They did everything all of us would have wanted. Say, hey, be 5-0 going into Dallas. Give yourself a real chance. And you couldn't have scripted the rest of the college football environment to be more set up. But man, JT, he's like on my top 3 list of he's just a game changer and a guy who changes just the way a whole defense guards you and looks at you. Texas still has a lot of weapons, so Sark's going to have a whole week, assuming JT doesn't play. We don't know what the prognosis is. My guess would be no, but I'm not going to play Dr. Trey Elling here on the pod. So, I'll say a bunch of prayers for him tonight, and we'll see where that turns out. But they've got plenty of weapons to go do other stuff, and Jonathan Brooks is one of those weapons. And obviously Verde and Mitchell, and just think about all the different there's guys beyond that. Rajante Cook, and let's not forget about Helm either, who's someone who has shown a lot of talent, is a guy that really could be someone who could step up. So really the main thing though, it's about the 2 lines of scrimmage. They've been different this year, and if they show up in Dallas next week the way they have and force Oklahoma to be one-dimensional. The thing about Oklahoma, they're tied with Iowa State right now, very early on at 7. I've watched them against Cincy. I don't really know how good they are. It's one of those where they've looked better. They've looked improved. They had a long way to go defensively to do that, but I know they're improved defensively. The question is how much, and a lot like this Kansas run defense that have been really good up until this point, do they run into a run game and an offensive line that's too much for them?
Yeah, I don't know if Oklahoma's had the weapons like they've had in recent years, especially when Lincoln Riley was running the show up there in Norman. And Texas, they got to use that to their advantage. If they have the better players, then you should go up to the Cotton Bowl and you should just beat the brakes off those dudes. No questions
Yeah.
asked. And, you know, you're right. I watched that Cincinnati game last week, too. Like, Emory Jones wasn't good, Cincinnati quarterback. He wasn't good at all. They got to the red zone multiple times, and there were missed kicks. Emory Jones threw an interception that wasn't necessarily an Oklahoma player making a great play. It was more Emory Jones making such a bad read. So, yeah, you don't know what this Oklahoma team is really like, but that game is just so unpredictable. You could go in thinking, oh, this and that. Look at the stats. They favor Texas and stuff, and then it could be a completely different game based on what Oklahoma might throw at you. So you got to be prepared for everything. And yeah, like I said earlier, Gunnar Helm, this is your chance. This is your chance to show that, hey, you're worthy of being one of the top players on this team and getting more playing time. And I don't know if Sark's going to change things up by maybe going more 20 personnel or 10 personnel where you don't have as many tight ends on the field and more wide receivers since JT is out. Or, I don't know, more two-back sets. I don't know. You could do a lot with this offense. Like, they're that versatile. And you mentioned Jonte Cook, who had a huge catch today. He had another big catch, just like he did last week in Waco. So those wide receivers, I know we're not seeing Isaiah Nair very often, but you could tell Steve Sarkisian has confidence in the freshmen to come in at different points of the game and make plays, and that's very exciting. So Jordan Whittington, he's still, you know, doing his thing. He might not got many touches today, but he's still out there. And then Adonai Mitchell, like, he should have big games like this. Xavier Worthy, he's just so fast. You have to pay a lot of attention to him. So guys like Adonai Mitchell, Jordan Whittington, this run game, now Gunnar Helms and JT Sanders is out, they should benefit off of those things when Xavier Worthy's getting those bracket coverages and double teams and stuff. And I think Quinn Ewers now is at a mature level to where he says, okay, I don't have to force it to number one because we know he's our main guy. I could give it to the rest of these guys, and that's going to open up everything for everyone.
No, I think Whittington's probably where you go if Sanders is out. That's a guy who does really good intermediate work. He finds soft zones and can sit. We've seen that on 3rd and 7 over the last couple of years. He's a guy that Quinn can trust. Runs good in routes, out routes, and like I said, sometimes he'll just sit in zone and feel it. So that's probably where you go. But really, for me, it's about, if the defense plays the way they have, it kept them in every game when the offense has maybe been spinning a little bit, and then the offense has gotten it going in every game at some point. But the defense shows up next week, they should be in a good spot. Let's get to our defensive play of the game, and that is brought to you by Moonshine Patio Bar and Grill. You guys know about Moonshine. Definitely takes you back to a simpler time. It's just a great spot. It's comfortable, it's familiar, it's good food. And they're celebrating 20 years in business. So they want to thank all of Austin for your support during that time. Go get a fantastic dinner. Check out the weekend brunch. That's a big hit. They got 2 locations downtown. Went to that one a bunch, and the one in Avery Ranch. You can get to moonshinegrill.com. You're more than welcome to call BS or say, KD, we're making a change. But for me, defensive play of the game, I feel like it's 2 in a row. It's the 3rd down stop on 3rd and short, and then the 4th down fumble. Right? You're up 7, and those. But the 3rd down stop on 3rd and short got them to 4th down and forced them to call a timeout and to have just a disorganized play that usually you don't see from a Kansas offense. And no matter how that happened, those 2 plays to me will wrap them in one as one big play sequence from Moonshine. That was a ball game right there because Texas went down, scored. They showed the running back too. Did you see on the sideline after that?
Oh, he was hurt. Daniel Highshaw, he was hurt.
Yeah, he's done. Ball game. It's done, and probably me.
Yeah.
That's never a good feeling. You got anything else outside of that one?
No, that's it for me too, man. Everybody's going to look at this game, especially national media, and say, oh, Jalen Daniels didn't play. So no wonder the score was 40-14. But this Kansas Jayhawk team just not from the quarterback standpoint. They got a lot of talent, man. Like their running backs, Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw, they're going to win those Jayhawks a lot of games just because they're so dynamic, a little thunder and lightning that they bring to the table. So shout out to Pete Kwiatkowski and this Texas defense for getting kind of mucked up in the first quarter, especially with that triple option, and then tightening up in the second half. You didn't see many rushing yards, well, a lot because Kansas was throwing the ball and they had to come back that way. But hey, they were stopping the run, and that was a huge play. Like Barron Sorrell, he would have been there if Daniel Highshaw didn't fumble that ball. It wasn't like it would have been a first down. Barron Sorrell would have had that tackle, and he was the reason why Highshaw wasn't able to jump on it, and Jahdae Barron was. And then, as you mentioned, just going back down on the offensive end and Jonathan Brooks getting that touchdown, and that was the ball game. So yeah, they're wearing teams down, man.
They are, Dave. That's the best way to put it.
They're wearing teams down. It's very hard to, go into the fourth quarter and guys are just coming in and out of the game and they're just so fresh, and huge guys like Byron Murphy and Vernon Broughton and Javondre Sweat and Alfred Collins. They're just so fresh on the field. So they're able to cause disruption the whole entire game. And quarterbacks have really struggled with that. Now, again, we haven't seen many starting quarterbacks these 5 games, but the quarterbacks that we have seen have really struggled because of the pressure that this defense is getting on there. So, Bo Davis, he's done a hell of a job. He doesn't take no shit from nobody. And these guys, they love playing for him.
Hey, by the way, I listened to that bus thing. Someone replayed it on Twitter this morning.
Oh, it's one of the greatest things in Texas football history.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this is part of being an old man. You're getting there. Say, I'm taking a deuce, sitting there at 6:45 in the morning drinking coffee. I mean, it's like, somewhere like Fred Sanford's like, whoa, that's old man stuff. But I'm sitting there and like going through Twitter, and I'm just playing this left and right. That got me so fired up to just for the game at 7 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was like that. But it did kind of take me back to that, man, this coaching staff and Bo and other guys like that, they had to reset a culture here, because like Bo Davis went off. If you don't know what we're talking about, it was, I think, the Iowa State game first year. And, there's someone records it, some player, but he's on the bus and is screaming at guys. I mean, MFing guys and saying, I'm sick of this shit. It's not happening anymore. What are y'all laughing for? And they had to reset the culture. And I think it's safe to say, I don't know how they finish off this year. The culture is reset, man.
Yeah. It is. Like, this is a nasty group. That front line, they are a nasty bunch, and everybody's hungry to make some plays, man, and that's what you want. Like David Benda, a lot of questions that we had in the offseason, KD, was who was going to be on the other side of Jalen Ford. We know what the first team all Big 12 linebacker brings to the table, but with Dave Benda, would he be up for the task being the 5th-year senior? Is he ready to replace a DeMarvion Overshown? Is Anthony Hill mature enough to get the reps that he's getting? And it's a yes. Like, both of those guys have stepped up and been big for this defense's success, and just all those holes and question marks that we had in the offseason. Oh, Bijan and Roshan are gone. What's going to happen? Jonathan Brooks had 218 yards today, against a ranked opponent. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have anybody missing on defense. They might have missed their quarterback. They weren't missing anybody on defense. So to gut them like you did last year, basically, that's exciting. That you just got to be optimistic with what we've talked about, all the parity around college football, not just, in the Big 12 where Texas looks like they reign supreme right now. That gives you a lot of confidence that this team could keep on working and keep on getting better and keep on handling their business. So if anything crazy happens, you don't have the committee making ridiculous decisions because they don't think you beat a high-quality team. No, beat everybody, beat them handedly, and move on to the next week. It's been very business approach for this Texas Longhorn team, and I love the mentality from the coaching staff to the players to everybody involved. Everybody looks like they know what's at stake, and we're seeing it on the field from week to week, even though we haven't necessarily seen perfect games from week to week. They're 5-0. That's all we could ask for at this point going into Texas OU, and I like their chances next week too. I really do.
I'm making that right there because that was the best thing said here and really well put. Paul Motors Works final word of the game. Paul Motors Works has been repairing foreign and domestic cars in Austin since 2000. They've been around a long time. They specialize in BMWs, Mini Coopers, Mercedes Benz, Audis, Volkswagen, but they do a lot of different stuff. So check them out at pmwaustin.com. And that was a great final word right there. You got anything else on this before we wrap it up?
Nah, man, just 5-0. That's
Feeling
all.
good, isn't it, man? I know.
That's
It's
all.
like
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a minute.
what's so great is to like I'm gonna go watch the rest of college football and some baseball, but I don't have to flip over whenever they go. So anyway, earlier on today, no, I can watch college football final tonight. I mean, it's nice being undefeated and playing well.
Yeah, and this is what we should be used to. Like we know
Yeah.
Texas fans, when it gets to that wine and cheese mode, like that's what I hate about this area. We're not seeing that right now because
Right.
this team is doing what they're supposed to do. With all the resources that you have at the University of Texas, what we've seen the last decade and some change has been unacceptable. So to be here at 5-0 and confident about your coach and where you're going to the SEC, your quarterback, you don't have any of those questions about the backups coming in because of bad quarterback play, questions about horrible defensive coordinators and just, not enough depth and stuff. Like we don't have that right now. And it's so refreshing, especially covering this team. You've covered them for a long time. And I know you got to be relieved and just being 5-0 right now with just so much at stake. This Texas team is at the right spot right now.
They really are. And it's nothing like going to OU and being undefeated and having more than just beating OU on the line. And Texas will definitely have that. We'll see if OU will be undefeated. But at this point, Texas shouldn't give a shit about that. I don't care if you lost to Iowa State, you're undefeated. I don't care what you think you have going on. We got bigger stuff going on. So we'll be back on the air. Texas Sports Unfiltered, 8 o'clock. You got Bucky and BK. That'll be Monday. And then don't forget, obviously, you can catch Zay and Chip at 1 o'clock. But we got shows all the way from 8 until 5, Monday through Friday. We got a great product. We want to thank all of our sponsors. For Zay Collier, I'm Kevin Dunn. Y'all have a great and safe weekend and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.